Hey everybody, Zachary from Zachary Zoo Adventures. This is another year coming to an end, so this is my year in review video of 2023. Now, over the year, I've gone to a lot more different places than I did than last year, and maybe even the year before that, probably because of the pandemic that's been going on. But luckily, since COVID's pretty much over and not many people are wearing masks now, and it seems like I've got to go more traveling, and luckily this year I've got to go to 45 different locations. I visited over 15 different states this year. I also have a few upcoming videos in the following month of January and February, which I'm very excited for, and I'm hoping to make it into new states next year and in the future, and maybe one day I'm hoping I might make it to Utah as I try to visit a new state every year. And there's also been a few zoos that had their birds off habitat because of the avian flu, as I always understand that the safety of the birds is more important than me being able to see them. So earlier this year, back in January, which is when I first started my first mini road trip of the year. So for my first mini road trip, I actually did a trip to East Texas. So on the way, I actually went to the Texas Zoo in Victoria, Texas. And this is actually my first location I went to in 2023, and this is a smaller size zoo, but even though it was small, it was very nice. And I don't know if it's AZA accredited, but I still really enjoyed it. They got black bears there, and it was very nice. I enjoyed every minute of it. So right after the Texas Zoo, the main course of this West Texas road trip, I actually drove all the way from there to the west side of Texas to El Paso, which was pretty much the main course of this mini road trip, and that was to the El Paso Zoo. The El Paso Zoo is actually a very nice zoo. I enjoyed every minute of it. All the habitats were very beautiful, and everything was very beautiful. They had a nice selection of animals there. They also had a new penguin habitat that's being built in spring 2023. I'm not sure when it said it was going to be built, because at the time I was there in late January. It was also very chilly that day, so there were some animals I did not get to see, and I did have my jacket on when I was there, so it was very cool. All the habitats look very pretty, and there were some birds that were temporarily off habitat because of the avian flu, as I understand that the safety of the birds is more important than me being able to see them. So that was very cool, and that was a very nice zoo. I do recommend, if you're in the El Paso area, I recommend you do visit the zoo because it was absolutely amazing. So right after that, on the third day, I actually did a 6-hour drive all the way from El Paso to Abilene. And as I was in Abilene, I actually got to go to the Abilene Zoo, and that was a very nice zoo. This is more of a mid-sized zoo, but even though it was not very huge, I still enjoyed it. And again, there were some bird species that were temporarily off habitat for the avian flu threat. But even though there were some birds that were off habitat, I did see some of the birds there that are more hardy to the avian flu. So it was very nice. And even though it was not very huge, it was still very nice. They had this nice area that has all the different animals from the swamps of Texas. They got alligators there, but unfortunately, since it was very cold that day, the alligators were not in the habitat, because since they are cold-blooded, means that they are not built for the cold weather. So that was a very great time I had in Abilene, so it was very enjoyable. So right after that, I actually drove there to Austin. This is actually my final day of my mini road trip in January, so it was very nice. I actually got to go to the Austin Aquarium. And the Austin Aquarium, this is actually more of an interactive aquarium, because you actually get to interact with all the different animals there, but I was not there to interact with any of the animals. I was mostly just there to show them to you. And it was very nice. From the outside of it, it looks like it's in a mall, but it's actually bigger than it looks on the inside. But it did not take me very long to go through. It was very nice. They got macaws there. It was very enjoyable. And luckily, as I was just there, a week later after I was just there, there was actually a freeze. There was actually some freezing rain, so luckily I left there just in time, because a week later there was actually some freezing rain and a mixture of snow and sleet up in Austin, which doesn't normally happen, but luckily I went there a week before that happened, so luckily the weather was very, very nice there, because I have never driven in freezing rain before, but I have driven in snow before, since it has snowed before in Texas, but it's been a very long time since it's snowed, but it doesn't really happen that much. So right after that, in February, I was not doing any road trips in that month, so later in February, at mid-February around that time, I actually did a single day attraction. I actually went down to Galveston and I got to go to Moody Gardens. The main reason I went to Moody Gardens was to their aquarium that they have there. They actually have an aquarium and a rainforest pyramid. There's also a water park there, but I was not going to do the water park there, because I was mostly just there just to do the aquarium and the rainforest pyramid, and the water park was not open at the time I was there, since I was there in February. So I was only there just to film the aquarium and the rainforest pyramid. They were both very cool. In the aquarium building, they have penguins. They got both the cold weather penguins they have from Antarctica, as well as the Humboldt penguins, which are the warmer weathered penguins. And I do enjoy seeing both species of penguins. That was very nice. And the rainforest pyramid was also very nice, because as you're in there, you actually get to go through a part of the building that actually has a free flight aviary with monkeys that are free roaming, and it was very, very nice. And as I was there, I actually got to see them feed their arapimas, which was very, very cool. So I enjoyed every minute of it, and I did really enjoy Moody Gardens. I have been there before, and I actually haven't been there in 2 years. It was good to have a visit there. So on the week after that, on a Sunday at the end of February, I actually got to do another single day attraction. And I actually got to go to a place I've never been to called the Houston Interactive Aquarium. Now, the Houston Interactive Aquarium was very, very nice. I enjoyed every minute of it. There's a mixture of outdoor and indoor parts, as it has an area called the Animal Preserve, since it also has giraffes there as well. They also got ostrich and warthogs, and they do have an aquarium there, and it's actually a interactive aquarium, means you get to interact with all the different animals they have. They also do camelback riding there, which was very nice. Of course, I was not there to interact with any of the animals there, as my main goal was to just show you all the different animals they have. So it was very, very nice, and sorry about the background noise since there's lots of cars driving behind me, but still, I really enjoyed the aquarium. They also had lemurs there, and this is actually my first time at this aquarium, so it was very, very enjoyable. Even though it was not a huge aquarium, it was still very, very nice. So right after that, around March on spring break, is where I got to go for my spring break road trip. This time, it was actually another mini road trip to the state of Louisiana. Since it's right next to Texas, I decided to go to Louisiana for my mini road trip in spring break. So on the first day of my mini road trip to Louisiana, I actually got to go to 2 different places on that day. The first day I went to Louisiana, which was my first attraction of the day I went to. I've never been here before, so it was my first time there, so it was very, very nice. They have a trackless train ride there, which was very cool. All the habitats were very impressive. They had a very nice selection of animals. It was also a bit cloudy that day, but luckily there was no rain, and I really enjoyed every minute of it, as it was a very fantastic facility. So on the same day after that, I actually drove all the way from there to Baton Rouge. The main reason I went to Baton Rouge was to their Mall of Louisiana, and as I was there, I got to go to a place called Blue Zoo Aquarium in Baton Rouge. I believe that's what it's called. I do know the first name is Blue Zoo. So it was a very cool aquarium. Not a super huge aquarium, but this is also an interactive aquarium where you get to interact with the different animals. But of course, I was obviously there just to show you the different animals they have. So it was very, very fantastic. They had a cool variety of sea critters there. Even though it wasn't very huge, it was still very, very nice. It was also raining the day I was there, so it was a very good time for me to check that place out as I try to do as many indoor activities on a rainy day. So on the next day after that, I went up to Alexandria, Louisiana, and as I was in Alexandria, it was supposed to be raining that day, but luckily as I was there, the rain started to clear down, so I got to go to the Alexandria Zoo. This is a zoo I've never been to before, as I've heard a lot of good things about this place. I was very excited to check it out. It was a very, very nice zoo. It was a mid-sized, small zoo. It's somewhere in between those two. There was a train ride there, but because of the rain, it was not running, as I did not get to ride the train ride. But it was still a fantastic zoo property. They had a very nice selection of animals there. And this is an AZA accredited facility. And I do love AZA accredited zoos, especially because where they have to have a certain amount of space for the animals and things to keep them occupied. I have been to non-AZA accredited zoos before, but they were still very, very nice. So right after that, I actually got to go to another zoo in Louisiana. I actually got to go to a place called Louisiana Purchase Gardens and Zoo in Monroe, Louisiana. Now, this zoo was not AZA accredited, but it was still very fantastic. They had a hippopotamus there, and he was actually on land and not in the water, and it was very chilly the day I was there, so I was wearing my sweater. Even though I was there in March, it was still very cold, and I enjoyed every minute of it. I also got to ride the train ride that they have there, which was very, very cool. So I enjoyed every minute of it. So I do recommend, if you're in the area of Monroe, I do recommend you check this place out because it was very, very cool. So right after that, as I was in Louisiana, I actually went over to my final location in Louisiana, and that was the Shreveport Aquarium in Shreveport, Louisiana. This was a smaller sized aquarium, but even though it was not very huge, it was very, very fantastic. It was really rainy the day I was there, so luckily it was a good day to go there, as I do enjoy going to indoor attractions on rainy days. So it was very, very nice. They have this big dome area here that has all different animals from the swamps. They got a snapping turtle there and some young alligators. It was very, very cool. They also have this little tunnel here that goes through the tank that has the sharks, which was very, very cool. I really enjoyed this aquarium, and all the tanks were very, very beautiful. So right after that, even though it looked like my mini road trip was over, right after that I actually got to go over to Dallas, and Shreveport is actually very close to Dallas. It was only about 2.5 hours there, I believe. So for my first location in Dallas, I actually got to go to the Dallas Zoo in Dallas, Texas. Now, I have been to this zoo before, and I haven't been there in 2 years, so it was a very, very large zoo. All the habitats were very nice, and again, it was a pretty chilly day when I was there, so I was wearing my hooded sweater. And they also have a monorail there. However, the monorail was not running because the last few times I've been going there, the monorail was not running. In fact, I don't think it's been running for 6 years now. So, not sure why it was not running, but if you are from the area of Dallas, I recommend you do a Google search, and hopefully you'll be able to find out why the Dallas Zoo monorail wasn't running, because when I was there, it was not running. We also got hippopotamus there, which is nice. And I also got to see a baby hippo there, which was very, very cute. He was in the water there, just hanging out with his mom. It was very cute. I enjoyed this zoo a lot. And at the front entrance of the zoo, they actually have this nice habitat that has 3 different types of lemurs there, which was very, very nice. And I really enjoyed the Dallas Zoo, and it was absolutely wonderful. So right after Dallas Zoo, on the next day, it was actually my last day of my mini road trip in spring break. So I was still in Dallas that day, and it was actually raining that day. So luckily I got to go to the Dallas World Aquarium. And this is an aquarium I have never been to before, and it was raining the day I was there, so it was very, very fantastic. The tanks were very beautiful. They also have some animals there. They got anteaters, as well as the little blue penguin, which is something I don't really see at many aquariums or zoos. They also have manatees there as well, which was very, very cool. I did enjoy seeing the manatees there. We also have this really big tank that has all different types of sharks there, and I really enjoy seeing the sharks at all the different aquariums, as I always love seeing the different sharks at aquariums. Most specifically the sand tiger shark. If you are familiar with my channel, then you'll know that the sand tiger shark is my favorite type of shark to see at aquariums. So right after that, as I was done with my mini road trip, which I think was my final mini road trip of the year, I actually, in around April, I actually went to my hometown zoo, which was the Houston Zoo. Like I said, this is actually my hometown zoo. And I say it's my hometown zoo, that doesn't really mean I actually live there, because I actually live right outside of Houston, and it's close to where I live. So I really love the Houston Zoo. Since it's my hometown zoo, I've been there multiple times. I do have a full tour of it from 2021. I actually went back there to film a tour of it, including the new Galapagos exhibit that just opened on April 7th, and luckily I was there on April 22nd, which was a few weeks after it opened. And this was a two-part video release because of its size, because it was absolutely large, especially with the new Galapagos exhibit that just opened. It was very, very large, and I try to keep my videos at least under an hour and 20 minutes, so it was a very fantastic zoo, and I recommend if you are in the Houston area, then you should visit this zoo, because it was fantastic. All the habitats were very, very gorgeous, and they have a fantastic variety of animals there. So after that, on the following week after that, on the end of April, I actually went to another zoo up in Texas, and this time I actually got to go to a place I've never been to before, called the Capital of Texas Zoo in Cedar Creek, Texas. This is not very far from Austin, so it was very, very nice. I enjoyed the zoo, and the habitats were okay. It's just that they're kind of cage-looking habitats, and even though they didn't look like the kind of habitats I care for, it was still a nice zoo. They had a hippopotamus there. He was actually up close out of the water. It was very close. It was very, very nice. And as I came back a little later, he was in the water just chilling, and I enjoyed every minute of it. All the habitats were very, very beautiful. So right after that, as I was done with my single day attractions in April, my first road trip of the year happened at the end of May, was when my first road trip of the year started, and this road trip was towards the Midwest. So I was very excited for this trip. I really enjoyed it. So my first location I went to was in Oklahoma, and that was to the Tulsa Zoo in Tulsa, Oklahoma. This was a pretty decent sized zoo. The habitats were very, very nice. Another thing I really like about the zoo is that they are working on a brand new elephant exhibit, which is going to be very, very cool. I do love seeing the elephants, since they are my #1 favorite zoo animal. They also have this nice area called Lost Kingdom that has all the different animals from Asia, which was very, very cool. I really enjoyed that part. That was a very, very cool part, and all the habitats were very, very gorgeous. They also have these different buildings that says life in the areas. There's one called Life in the Water, Life in the Desert. Life in the Water actually has a little miniature aquarium that has all the different types of animals and fish from the different waters of our world, which was very, very cool experience. So after Tulsa Zoo, on the same day, I still had a little more time left. So I actually went down towards Jenks, Oklahoma, which is luckily outside of Tulsa, and I actually got to go to the Oklahoma Aquarium. This was a very, very wonderful aquarium. All the tanks were gorgeous. I enjoyed every minute of it. Right at the very back end of the aquarium, you actually go straight, and then right at the end of the line of the aquarium, you actually have got this really big tank that has the different sharks. They got bull sharks there and nurse sharks. And the bull sharks were also very cool, since I rarely see bull sharks at aquariums, but I do always enjoy seeing other different types of sharks at the aquarium. So right after that, on day 2 of my road trip, I went down towards Oklahoma. And as I was in Oklahoma, I got to go to the Oklahoma City Zoo in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. That was a very, very nice zoo. It was pretty large too. They're also doing some renovation work, and they're actually working on a brand new African area called Expedition Africa, which is going to be very, very cool. And that's going to be very, very nice. Yeah, I can tell that this zoo has been raising funds and all, and it was very, very nice. They also have this other area called the Oklahoma Trail that has all the different animals from Oklahoma, and they got bison. We also got grizzly bears. However, when I was there, the grizzly bears were not out. There's also alligators there as well. And there's another area of the zoo I love is Sanctuary Asia, which has all the different animals from Asia. They got Asian elephants there as well, which is nice. Because like I said, the Asian elephants are my favorite animal. And the African elephants. I basically love both species of elephants to see at zoos because they're just so large and they're just very, very wonderful animals. So right after I was done with the zoos in Oklahoma, my next day after that was Kansas. So after that, I went up to Kansas, towards Wichita, Kansas. And my first location in Kansas, that was to the Sedgwick County Zoo. And this was a pretty good sized zoo, as it was the largest zoo in the state of Kansas that I went to. It has a train ride, which of course I was not able to ride on because it was very, very crowded there. There were some school groups, but I still enjoyed every minute of it. Even got a nice touch pool that has stingrays there. It was very, very wonderful. They also have this really large habitat with African elephants in it. And they also got all different types of animals there. It was very, very enjoyable, as I enjoyed every minute of this zoo. So right after that, on the next day, after I was done with Wichita, I went from there to Topeka. And that's where I got to go to the Topeka Zoo and Conservation Center in Topeka, Kansas. This was a very wonderful zoo. The habitats are very gorgeous. This was another smaller footprint zoo, but even though it was small, it was very, very nice. They also have a brand new habitat for the giraffes that just opened earlier this year, because luckily it was very brand new when I just went. That's how I knew it was brand new, which is very nice how the zoo does fundraising, and it was a very fantastic zoo. Another thing I like about the zoo, they actually have both African and Asian elephants, which is something not many zoos have, because usually most zoos I go to usually have one of the elephant species. So it was a very fantastic zoo. So on the next day after that, as I was still in Kansas, I actually went to another smaller zoo. This one I went to was the Sunset Zoo, and this is a smaller size zoo, but even though it was small, it was very, very nice. There were parts of the zoo that were doing some construction in the Australian area that kind of needs a little bit of work done, but it was still very, very wonderful. They had this other area called Expedition Asia, which I could tell was brand new. This is actually an area that just opened last year in 2022, and since I was there in May of 2023, I could tell it was very, very brand new. They got tigers there. They also have this other area called the Americas that has anteaters and Chicoan peccaries. It was very, very fantastic, and I can tell that area kind of needs a little bit of work done, but it was still a very, very fantastic zoo, and all the habitats look very, very gorgeous. So right after that, I was done with Kansas, and my next day after that was to Colorado. Now, my main course over to Colorado was to the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo, but I did not go to Cheyenne Mountain first. So my first location in Colorado was to the Pueblo Zoo in Pueblo, Colorado. Now, even though this zoo was small and there were parts of the zoo that were very old, but it was still fantastic. And they have this one habitat that has bald eagles, and that habitat used to have bears in it. So it was a very, very wonderful zoo. There were also some birds I think were off habitat. I remember there were one of the birds I did not get to see, which was the ostrich, and it did not specify why it was off habitat, but I just did not see it there. So it was a very, very great zoo. Even though with the smaller zoo, they still have a great variety of animals there, which I really enjoy. So after that, as I was done with the Pueblo Zoo, I went up to Colorado Springs. It was probably my favorite part of Colorado, because as I was there, I got to go to the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo in Colorado Springs, Colorado. This was probably my favorite zoo that I went to in Colorado, as all the habitats there were very beautiful, since it is built up on the side of Cheyenne Mountain, which was very, very nice. It was a pretty good sized zoo. They had hippopotamus there as well. And there's also a sky ride that actually takes you up to the top of the mountain, which was very, very nice. And it was very, very enjoyable too. There are no animals up at the top of the mountain, but even though there were no animals there, it was still very, very beautiful. And seeing all the mountains up in the air, and it was very, very nice. The weather was very beautiful. And this zoo also has the largest giraffe herd of any other zoo I've been to. They actually had a very nice selection of giraffes, and you actually do get to feed and pet them, but I did not get to pet them, which is something not many zoos have, where at most zoos where you get to feed the giraffes, you actually don't get to pet them. But here at the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo, you actually do get to pet them, which is very cool. However, I did not really pet them, but it was very, very fantastic. So on the next day after that, I was in Denver, Colorado. And for my first day in Denver, I went to the Denver Zoo. And this was a large 80-acre zoo, so it was absolutely massive. I enjoyed all the different habitats. There was a train ride, but unfortunately, the train was not running as I was there. So, fortunately, even though it was not running, I still enjoyed it. There was also a new area that has the new Australian habitat. It's going to be built very soon. Not sure when it's going to be opening, but I am very excited for when it opens. And as I was there, one thing I really like about this zoo is that I actually saw the largest male Asian elephant there, and he was absolutely massive. It was almost about the size of a mammoth, so he was very, very large, especially for an Asian elephant, because usually the African elephants are larger than the Asian elephants, but this one was actually very, very large. I really enjoyed every minute of this zoo. Another good thing about the zoo, it has this really large indoor building called the Discovery Building. It has all different types of animals from all the rainforests, all different types of reptiles and amphibians. They even have a little mini aquarium, which is very cool, because I always do love a zoo that has an aquarium at it, because it's like going to 2 different attractions in one day. And as I got out of the Discovery Building, the rain started to come in, because it was actually supposed to rain the day I was there. So as I got out, it started to rain as I heard thunder. So unfortunately, I was unable to go back to the animals I missed, but there were still a few animals I did get to see, and I was kind of disappointed I didn't get to see the animals I missed, but still, I had a very great time coming to the zoo, as it was absolutely amazing. So right after that, as I was still in Denver, I did one more attraction in Denver, and that was to the Downtown Aquarium. This is actually their second location I've been to. The other one I went to was the Downtown Aquarium in Houston, Texas, which is my hometown aquarium, and I have been there before and had a fantastic time. And the Downtown Aquarium in Denver was very, very nice. It wasn't a huge aquarium, but even though it was not very huge, it was slightly larger than the Houston location, because the Houston location I went to actually has the white Bengal tigers, while the one in Denver has Sumatran tigers, which was very, very cool. And the downtown location in Denver does not have as many rides as the Texas location, because the one in Houston actually has a Shark Voyage train ride that takes you through a tunnel that shows you all the different types of sharks. And the Denver location also has sharks, but they're actually in the aquarium. They also had a very nice selection there of sharks, and it was very, very cool. And they also have otters there, and they were very cute and just swimming around. And the Downtown Aquarium in Denver does not have a train ride, but still the sharks at this aquarium are very, very nice, as I enjoyed every single minute of it. So right after I was done with Denver, I actually drove from there all the way to Omaha, Nebraska. And this was pretty much my favorite part of the whole road trip, and that was the Omaha Henry Doorly Zoo and Aquarium. And this was pretty much the main course of this road trip, as I've been wanting to come to the zoo for quite a really long time. I absolutely loved every minute of the zoo. It was so beautiful. They also have this really big dome building that has all the different types of animals from the different deserts, as well as an area there called Kingdoms of the Night that has all the different animals that are nocturnal. And there's also an aquarium at this place called the Scott Aquarium, which was like a destination itself, because like I said, I always love going to a zoo that has an aquarium at it, because basically it's like going to 2 different attractions in one day. Now, because of the size of the zoo, along with the aquarium, this was a 2-part video release, because it was just so large. There's also a train ride there, which was very, very cool, and there's actually 2 different stations that the train stops at. There's the station in Africa and the one that's nearby the Asian Highlands. I actually rode it around the whole zoo, and it does go behind the scenes for some of the animals in Africa, so it was very nice. There's also a sky ride there that takes you over the habitats in Africa. Unfortunately, the sky ride at the zoo was not operating because it was a very windy day when I was there, so that's probably the case why the sky ride was not running. And they also had a very large habitat that has different types of animals. They got giraffes and a good selection of hoofstock in that habitat, and it was very, very impressive. And there's also a new area of the zoo called the Hubbard Orangutan Habitat, and when I saw I was about to go there, it was closed because they're actually renovating it, and it's supposed to be opening next year in summer of 2024. And even though the zoo is very, very fantastic, there were parts of the zoo that I missed because of the time. I was having so much fun there, I did not see how the time went by so fast. Because one of the main areas of the zoo I missed was the Lee Jungle, because that's actually an area that was right next to the front of the entrance. Because as I was about to get to that area, it was closed because they were doing some construction on the roof. And the sky ride there is another part of the zoo I missed. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to go back to the zoo sometime next year in the summer, and I'll go ahead and treat that as a part 3, even though it'll be a different year. So right after that, I actually had a 2-hour drive all the way from Omaha to Kansas City. So as I went down to Kansas City, I actually got to go to the Crown Center, and the main reason I went to the Crown Center in Kansas City was for their sea life aquarium that they have there. I have been to many different sea life aquariums around the United States. This one was absolutely wonderful, and the one thing I really like about the sea life aquariums is that they're all slightly different, but the one thing they have in common that luckily they don't use the same design as every other sea life aquarium. So this was a very, very wonderfully designed aquarium. It was very, very beautiful. The tanks were very gorgeous. I really loved every minute of the sea life aquarium. So right after that, the sea life aquarium, I actually went to another zoo that day, and that's where I got to go to the Kansas City Zoo in Kansas City, Missouri. So that was a very, very nice zoo as well. It was pretty large. There was lots of walking. At the front of the zoo, they have an area called Polar Bear Passage where you get to see the polar bears, and there was lots of school groups there, so it was pretty crowded, and there was lots of walking. They have a train ride there, and the train ride actually stops at 2 different stations. So since it's very, very large, it actually makes 2 stops at 2 different stations. There's also a tram ride that makes different stops at the zoo in case there's people that don't want to walk the whole way. However, I decided to walk the whole way through the zoo because it's good exercise. And there's also a sky ride there that they have in their African section that goes over all the different hoofstock and their habitats. There's also an area called West Africa that has gorillas there and all different animals from the forests of Africa. and this was a two-part video release because it was another very big zoo. And they're also working on a new aquarium there that's supposed to open very soon. As I was there in May, they were actually supposed to open it on Friday, on Labor Day weekend, and it's actually already open now at the time of this filming. So that's a zoo I'm definitely gonna have to go back there next year and possibly treat that as a part 3. Alright, so on day 13 of my road trip, I was in Arkansas that day. So my main reason to Arkansas was to the Little Rock Zoo in Little Rock, Arkansas. So it was a very nice zoo. The habitats were very gorgeous. There was also a train ride at the zoo I got to ride. This was pretty much the only zoo I got to go to in Arkansas. It was pretty much the main course for coming to Arkansas. So it was a very fantastic zoo. Alright, so the next day after that, which was the final day of my road trip, I got to go to the Hattiesburg Zoo in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. This was a very fantastic zoo, and even though it was not very huge, it still had a very nice variety of animals there. And this was actually the final zoo I went to on my road trip. So for my next road trip of the summer, which happened at the end of July, and this time it was up towards the northeast, and my main area to the northeast was to Pennsylvania, West Virginia, as well as New Jersey, that area around there. So as I was heading on this trip, I also went to Ohio as well, since Ohio was right next to West Virginia. So for my first stop on this road trip to Ohio was to the Toledo Zoo in Toledo, Ohio. This was a very large zoo. The habitats were very gorgeous. This is actually, I believe, my second favorite zoo in Ohio. It was absolutely beautiful. They also have an aquarium there, which was absolutely wonderful. And what's interesting about the zoo is that your admission to the Toledo Zoo is not included with your admission to the aquarium, because you actually have to pay 2 admissions to the zoo and the aquarium, because usually most zoos that have aquariums at them, your admission is always included with the aquarium, but at this zoo you actually have to pay 2 admissions to the zoo and aquarium. So luckily for me, I paid 2 admissions to do both the zoo and aquarium that day, and this was a 2-part release because of its size, because the aquarium was a pretty good sized facility, and it was very cool. Had lots of different tanks there. They also have a very nice African section. The zoo is actually split into 2 different areas. I believe there is the north side and the south side of the zoo, which I'm pretty sure that's correct. They also have a nice area that has the different animals from the Arctic. They got polar bears there and seals and wolves there, and the wolves were very beautiful as they were just walking around at the fence, and they were absolutely beautiful animals. And so at day 2 of this road trip, I went down towards Columbus, Ohio. And as I was in Columbus, I went to the Columbus Zoo and Aquarium. And this was also a very big zoo. And this also was a 2-part release because it was absolutely large. There was a chance of rain as I was at the zoo, but the rain wasn't supposed to come until 12 o'clock. And since the zoo opens at 9 o'clock, I got there exactly at 9 o'clock. So I had a very fantastic time at this zoo. They have this really nice area called Asia Quest that has the different animals from Asia. That was my favorite part. And there's also this one building that's called Asia Quest that has a reticulated python. It also shows the indoor view of the sloth bear and the langur monkeys, which was nice. And as you're in that building, it actually has statues of all the different types of tigers that are extinct and alive, which was very cool. There's also a train ride at this zoo, and I did get to ride a train ride, luckily. And there's also a theme park and water park called the Zambezi Bay that's right next to the zoo. However, I was not planning to do the water park that day since it was supposed to rain that day. So it was a very fantastic zoo. And as it started to rain, I was still okay with it as I still kept on going. So it was very cool. I also enjoyed the aquarium as well, which was kind of a bonus to the Columbus Zoo, which was absolutely like a destination itself. And They also got manatees there as well, which was absolutely wonderful because usually I mostly see manatees at either aquariums and sometimes I see them at zoos. So that was a very fun experience I had at this zoo. Oh, so the next day after that, the rain finally cleared up and it was a bit overcast, but it was still nice. And that day I got to go to the Cleveland Metro Park Zoo in Cleveland, Ohio. And this was another very large zoo, and this zoo is my #1 favorite zoo in the state of Ohio because I have been to this zoo before, since most of the zoos in Ohio I have been to before. So that was a very nice zoo. Now, because of the size of the zoo, this was a 2-part release because it was large, very, very large. There's lots of walking, a lot of elevation changes, so if you do come to that zoo, be prepared to walk because there was lots of walking. Like I said, there's lots of elevation changes. They also have tram services there to take you to the different parts of the zoo for people who don't want to walk the whole way. But I still wanted to walk the whole way because I do enjoy walking through all the different zoos. And there's also another area that has the very wonderful tiger habitat. There's multiple different habitats there. There are actually 3 tigers that I got to see there at that zoo. There's also a new part of the zoo they're opening called Bear Hollow, and since I was there in July, it said it was supposed to open in summer, and I believe it was supposed to open somewhere near the end of summer, so that's probably going to be very, very cool. So it was very, very nice. They also have this really nice rainforest building that's outside the zoo, and that was a very, very cool experience. All the rainforest animals are very, very cool. They got orangutans there as well, and that was a very nice building. And another area of the zoo that I liked inside the zoo, this area called the Primates, Cats, and Aquatics building, which was very, very nice. It has an aquarium in there and gorillas, and that was my favorite part of the zoo. I do love that area of the zoo. It had a very nice selection of animals. So on the next day after that, as I was still in Ohio, I actually went south of Cleveland towards Akron. Now, this is a zoo I've never been to before, and that was the Akron Zoo. And this is actually a smaller size zoo that is smaller than the zoos I went to in Ohio. But it was still very, very wonderful. This is actually the only zoo I have not been to before in Ohio, so it was my first time there. And even though it was not a huge property, it was still very, very wonderful. They have this nice area there called Grizzly Ridge or something. I'm not sure what it's called, but it was a very, very nice zoo. The habitats were very, very gorgeous. They also have this nice area that has all different animals from around Asia. So that was a very, very nice area. They got tigers there. And it was a very, very wonderful zoo. They also have this little small African area that, even though it was a small area, it was very, very nice. They had lions there. And this building is actually the other building there that's next to the Komodo Cafe. You actually get to go through this area that has the aquarium called Curious Creature, that has an aquarium, as I do love going to a zoo that has an aquarium at it. So it was a very, very nice area of the zoo, as I really enjoyed it. So as I was done with Ohio, the Akron Zoo is my final location I went to in Ohio. So right below Akron is West Virginia. So luckily I went from there towards West Virginia. So my main reason for West Virginia is I actually got to go to a very nice zoo called the Good Zoo. Now, the Oakland Bay Good Zoo was a very fantastic zoo. It is actually dedicated in memory of a little boy named Philip Mayer Good, who really loved nature. And all the habitats of the zoo are very gorgeous. There was also a very nice new pavement, as well as a new trackless train ride that they just got earlier last year. They also used to have a regular train ride that goes on the railroad tracks, but they stopped using that train because luckily this new trackless train that they have makes multiple stops at the zoo for people who do not want to walk the whole way. But I did not ride that train because I just wanted to walk the whole way, because I do enjoy walking through the zoos no matter how big or small they are. And I can tell that the community of the zoo really supports their zoo, because it gives them more funding to expand their habitats and renovate their areas, as well as give them new funding to add new stuff to the property, which is very, very cool, and to take better care of the animals, because that's the most important part. So that was my time in West Virginia. So that was a very nice state. I enjoyed it, especially going past all the mountains. And my next state after that was to Pennsylvania. So right across from Wheeling, West Virginia is Pittsburgh, and my main course to go to Pittsburgh was to the Pittsburgh Zoo and PPG Aquarium. And the Pittsburgh Zoo was my favorite zoo that I went to in Pennsylvania. It had a really awesome selection of animals there. It was a pretty good sized zoo. They also have this nice building called Tropics Trail that has all different types of primates and monkeys from the different jungles of our world, which was very, very nice. I also enjoyed the PPG Aquarium because that was a fun experience. And the PPG Aquarium is sort of like a bonus to the Pittsburgh Zoo. The PPG Aquarium was like a destination itself. It was very enjoyable. It was a pretty good sized facility. There's actually two different levels there. There is the upper level and the lower level. I started with the upper level first, and then I did the lower level. Now, because of the size of the zoo, this was a two-part release because it was absolutely very, very large. I really enjoyed this zoo. It was very, very large, and I do recommend if you're in the Pittsburgh area, you should definitely come to this zoo because it was absolutely wonderful, especially the PPG Aquarium, which was very, very nice because as I was at the PPG Aquarium, it felt like a destination itself because it was basically like going to two different attractions in one day, which is something I really like about zoo and aquarium combinations. So as I was done with Pittsburgh, I actually went from there all the way to Hershey, Pennsylvania, which, as you know, is famous for their Hershey's chocolate bars. So as I was in Hershey, my main reason there is that I got to go to Zoo America. Zoo America was a very, very nice zoo. I really enjoyed every minute of it. And even though it was not very huge, it had a very nice selection of animals from all around North America. They got two black bears there, but even though there was only supposed to be two of them there, I actually only saw one of them. He was actually in the water just cooling off, and it was a very nice day. They also got pronghorn and elk there. It was very, very, very nice. I really enjoyed it. They also had this really nice habitat for their gray wolves, and they were just beautiful. They were just laying down, hanging out, as I always love seeing the wolves at all different zoos because they always remind me of my dogs at home, which was very, very nice. They also have this one building that has all different animals from the deserts, which is very, very nice. And Zoo America has animals from North America, from all the different parts of North America. So that was a very, very fantastic zoo, and you actually have to pay an admission if you're doing Hershey Park and Zoo America the same day. However, I was not there to do Hershey Park and Zoo America the same day, as I was mostly just there to film the zoo there, and I was mostly just there just to see the zoo and not the actual Hershey Park. So right after I was done with Zoo America, my next location was to Philadelphia, and for my time there, I got to go to the Philadelphia Zoo, and this was a very, very nice zoo, and it was a pretty good sized facility. This was the first real zoo that opened in the United States. It opened on July 1st, 1874, which is a pretty long time ago. And since it was the first zoo that opened in America, there was sort of a mixture of old and new stuff from the past. So that was very, very fantastic, which is nice how they don't tear down their old stuff there to show you what it was like in the past. There was not a lot of old stuff, but there was this one big house at the zoo. I don't remember what it was for, so I enjoyed it. And it's very nice how zoos have changed for the better, where they used to have the caged up looking habitats, but luckily they've changed and made them more natural looking, and that way I always understand to make sure that the animal habitats are more enjoyable for them. That way it's more enjoyable for the people and more enjoyable for the animals. So it was a very, very nice zoo, and sorry about the truck going behind me. So it was a nice zoo. They also have this one area called Big Cat Falls that has all the different types of cats. They got lions and tigers there, as well as snow leopards. And what's very nice about that area is that they actually get to change the different habitats every day, so the cats are not bored in one place, which is very, very cool. I really like this zoo a lot. They also had hippopotamus there that were just chilling together in the water, which was very, very cool, since they are my third favorite animal to see at zoos. Alright, so the next day after that, I was done with Philadelphia. Right across from there is New Jersey. And as I was done with Philadelphia, I went over to New Jersey. So the next day after that, on day 9, I actually went to 2 different locations that day. First one I went to was the Wild Safari drive-thru adventure that they have at Six Flags Great Adventure. Like I said, it is located at Six Flags Great Adventure, since it's called Wild Safari drive-thru adventure. So it was very, very nice. I always love going to drive-thru safaris, and this was actually my favorite drive-thru safari I went to. And they do not have any animal feeding there. You actually have to have your windows up at all times, because if you've ever been to those safari parks where you get to interact with the animals and feed them, this safari does not have that. You actually have to have your windows closed at all times, and you're not supposed to feed the animals there. So I still really, really enjoyed it. They actually got elephants there, which is something you don't really see at many drive-thru safaris. You even have giraffes there, and what's very interesting about the giraffes there is that they are free roaming, because usually most safaris I go to, usually the giraffes are either behind the scenes or behind fences. However, the giraffes at this drive-thru safari are actually free roaming. Another cool thing about this place, they actually got lions, tigers, and bears, and it was very, very cool. They actually have European brown bears, which is a type of brown bear I don't really see at many zoos, so that was very cool. They also have this really huge pride of lions there, and of course the lions are behind fences, because I have heard that there were other places that have safari drive-thrus where the lions are actually free roaming. That's actually very dangerous, because I've heard where people would stupidly get out of their car and they don't survive. So luckily the lions at this safari are behind fences. They even have this nice area called Baboon Village, where that has all different baboons there. It was very, very fantastic. I really enjoyed the safari, and it was actually my #1 favorite drive-thru safari that I've been to so far, so it was very fantastic. So after that, on the same day, I actually went from there up to the American Dream Mall in East Rutherford, New Jersey. So as I was up in the American Dream Mall, I actually got to go to another sea life aquarium there. And I really enjoyed the sea life aquarium there, as I enjoyed going to all the different sea life aquariums around the United States. This was a fantastic sea life aquarium. And even though it's in New Jersey, it was actually modeled after New York, because as you're going through the aquarium, it's basically modeled after New York, where all the different areas are based off all of the names of the streets and areas of the aquarium. And at the end portion of the aquarium, they have this really big tank that has all the different skyscrapers around New York, and it basically has New York City underwater. As it would give you an example of what would New York look like underwater, as you heard that Earth's getting warmer every year. So that's very nice tank. I enjoyed every minute of it, and that was my favorite part of the aquarium. Alright, so the next day after that, since New Jersey's right across from New York, I actually was the next state I went to. New York was the next state I went to, and this was actually my favorite part of the whole trip, and also being quite possibly my favorite zoo of the year, and that was the Bronx Zoo. Now, the Bronx Zoo, I really, really loved this zoo. This was pretty much the whole main course of this trip. It was very beautiful. I loved every minute of it. I have been to this zoo before. I used to go there all the time when I was young, and this is actually my favorite zoo in the Northeast, and it's also another really old zoo. This actually has a mixture of old and new stuff from the past, as there's one of their oldest areas of the zoo they have is called Zoo Center. That's actually their oldest area of the zoo, and it was very, very large, as I loved every minute of it, and it was absolutely massive. And this was a two-part release because of its size, because like I said, it was massive. There was lots of indoor buildings. They had a very nice selection of animals there. Some I don't think I've ever seen before at a zoo, because I always love seeing a new animal at a zoo, so it was very, very cool. At their Asian section of the zoo, there is a monorail that takes you on a tour of all the different animals from Asia. They got elephants on that monorail, as well as an animal called gaur, which is a type of cow from Asia, which I don't really see at many zoos, so it was very fantastic. It also has this nice bird building that has all different types of birds. There's also one of the levels of that building which was closed off, unfortunately, but I still enjoyed every minute of it, so it was a fantastic zoo. There's also a Madagascar building that has all the different types of animals from Madagascar, all the different types of lemurs there. It was a very fantastic zoo. All the habitats were very, very gorgeous, and I can definitely tell that this is a world-class zoo. And even though when I said the Henry Doorly Zoo was actually my #1 favorite zoo, the Bronx Zoo is definitely now my #1 favorite zoo in the United States, which makes the Omaha Henry Doorly Zoo my second favorite. Alright, so the next day after that, as I was done with the Bronx Zoo, I went down to Camden, New Jersey. And it was raining the day I was there, so luckily that day I got to go to the Adventure Aquarium. And this was a pretty good sized facility. I really love this aquarium. It's actually split into different zones. There's zones A, B, C, D, and E. I actually did them all alphabetically, so that was very nice. Because in Zone A, there's actually a nice rainforest area there that has all different fish from all the fresh waters from the rainforest. They also have the little blue penguin there, as well as the African penguin, which I believe are both warm-weathered penguins there. Luckily, most of the aquarium is indoors, as the African penguin is the only part of the aquarium that is outdoors, so it was very, very nice. And it's also the only aquarium in the world is that they have hippopotamus there. They got 2 females, both of them which are pretty good size. This is actually the only aquarium in the world that has hippopotamus on habitat. And in Zone D, which is actually the same zone the hippopotamus are, they have sharks there. They actually have this big shark tank there that has all the different types of sharks. There's also a shark bridge that goes right above the shark tank, which was very, very cool. And it was also very cool seeing all the sharks there, because the sharks are always my favorite type of sea critter to see at aquariums. So right after the Adventure Aquarium, I actually went from there down towards Maryland. The next day I actually got to go to 2 different locations that day. First one being the Plumpton Park Zoo in Rising Sun, Maryland. And this was sort of a rescue zoo, because most of the animals there were rescued. It did not specify what they were rescued from, but I could tell they were rescued from all kinds of deplorable situations. And there was also some animals that were not rescued and they were just there for other reasons. So it was a very fantastic zoo. They had bison there, as well as giraffes. And there was also the donkeys that they had in their petting zoo that was braying. So it was a very nice zoo. Even though it was small, it was very, very enjoyable. So right after that, after the Plumpton Park Zoo, I went up towards Delaware, and I got to go to the Brandywine Zoo in Wilmington, Delaware. This was a smaller 4.7 acre zoo, but even though it was small, it was very, very beautiful. It had a wonderful selection of animals there, and even though it was small, it actually had this really big Madagascar habitat that had 3 different types of lemurs in that habitat. There's also a small petting zoo that has goats, as well as this other area, the habitat that has binturongs. It was a very wonderful habitat. And right at the front of the zoo as you enter it, they actually had this really huge habitat for their Andean condors, which was what they had. And the Andean condors, I do love those birds, and they were very, very big. And there were actually two of them in there. One which was just standing right in front of me, a very good image of them. It was absolutely wonderful. Okay, so right after that, I was done with the Brandywine Zoo. I actually went back up to New Jersey, because as you know, with the United States, were New Jersey, the lower portion of New York, Pennsylvania, Delaware, and Maryland are all clustered together, and below is Washington, D.C. So that was very, very nice. So the real reason why I went back to New Jersey is I got to go to somewhere that I was not expecting to go to. That was the Essex County Turtleback Zoo in West Orange, New Jersey. This was sort of an unscheduled visit, but it was still a very, very fantastic zoo. And they even had a train ride, which I got to ride on. There's also another area of the zoo that has all different animals from Africa. There's these two habitats that have lions and hyenas. Of course, they're not in the same habitat, because I think they usually change the habitats every day. So that was a very, very fun experience. I got to go to this zoo. This zoo is also the final zoo that I went to on this trip, as well as the final location I went to for the year. Now, the last few places that I just mentioned, being the Bronx Zoo, Adventure Aquarium, the Brandywine Zoo, the Turtleback Zoo, and the Sea Life Aquarium, all those videos, starting with the Sea Life Aquarium, you're actually going to have to wait for those, which are going to be coming out next year in the following month of January and February. This is actually the first time I've started uploading videos in the following month of January and February. Just because you don't see them right now doesn't mean I forgot about them. Those videos are on their way, and they will be there very, very soon. Alright, so as I was explaining about the part for the Akron Zoo, when I was mentioning the Asian section I was talking about is actually called Wild Asia. As I was mentioning the Toledo Zoo, I actually forgot to mention that the south side is actually larger than the north side. The north side is actually smaller than the south side. And also, when I was mentioning the part about my miniature road trip through Texas, I mistakenly said that was my miniature road trip through East Texas, even though it was actually to West Texas, since El Paso is actually in the west side of Texas. So just clarifying it to everybody. So as I was done with my Northeast trip in the summer, I was actually done for the year, and I was not doing any more mini road trips or larger road trips after that. So around December, and it was actually only about a few weeks ago, on December 3rd, I actually decided to do a holiday-themed video for everyone. This is actually my first time doing a holiday-themed video for everyone. This time, I actually went back to the Houston Zoo in Houston, Texas. This time, I was there for their holiday event called the Zoo Lights, which is something I usually go to every year for the holiday season, as I do love the zoo lights because all the lights are very beautiful, and I especially love the multicolored and the blue lights. There's also this one part of the zoo where they have some lights dangling down from the tree, which is very, very cool. There's also another part of the zoo called the Enchanted Forest, which was absolutely beautiful. That was very, very nice. I had all these beautiful animal decorations, and this was my first time doing a video of the zoo lights, because usually not all the animals are out, but there were some I got to see. There was actually the white rhinoceros, which was pretty much the only animal I got to see. There was also the elephants that briefly appeared during my video, because I did not really see them, but I did briefly saw them for a brief second, because the trail to the elephant habitat was closed, but I did catch a glimpse of one of them in their habitat, so that was a very nice experience. There was also the area called Snowy Slopes, where they got these little snow machines that is attached to a tree that blows snow out and land on the ground, which is very cool. Nice little thing they got for the kids, since here in Texas it doesn't really snow a lot here in Texas. So I hope you all enjoyed my fresh content I had for you this year. I had a fantastic year. I am looking forward to next year for more zoos and aquariums and more new adventures. I'm very excited for that. Leave some comments down below for what was your favorite location I went to this year, or if there's any location you'd like to see me go to. I appreciate everyone who has continued their support to my channel and has got the chance to subscribe to my channel. I thank everyone for watching this video. Have a happy new year, and I'll see you again next time. Bye!